Welcome to Hawk School. So today we got something special, you know what I'm talking about? Let's see if we can, we got a new mystery, you know what I'm talking about? Well, really ain't no mystery. We got a new cover up. A new area of investigation, which requires the intentions of some true Hawks. You know, I was telling this brother, the difference with Hawk School is the hawk see the rabbit, he see the fox, he see the river, he see the mountain. The rabbit just see the grass in front of him. You know what I'm talking about? But when you up here hawking, you can see it all. You can put it together. That's what Hawk School all about, man. Above it all, man. Above the clouds, man. All the clouds of confusion, man. We getting out of that. We getting out of the confusion, man. You know what I'm talking about? But anyway, I digress. So, Sarah Rector. Okay, I'm reading this from the straight off the Kansas City Public Library joint, cause like everywhere I look, when I pull up the information on her, it's like kind of redundant. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the same shit, like copy paste. You know what I'm saying? Like basically everybody's saying the same thing about her, but her history started like age 10, 11. You know what I'm saying? But it's like nobody knows nothing really about her in between. Like her adolescence isn't written about, and we're gonna get to why that is, you know what I'm saying? But so did you know that Sarah Rector was a 10-year-old and the first black millionaire in America? You know what I'm talking about? The newspaper headline saying she make more money than the president. 10-year-old so-called Negro, but she's a Muskogee Creek Indian. You know what I'm saying? They put her on, of course, the Freedmen's list. And when they put her on the Freedmen's list, they gave her 160 acres. That was allotted to her, you know what I'm saying? Like all of the creeks, you know what I'm saying? Even if they say if you was an infant, you got 160 acres. You know what I'm saying? So it's out here waiting on y'all to claim it, you know what I mean? To realize who you are, you know what I mean? It's gonna take some work. But it's your grandma's land. You know what I'm saying? You ain't willing to work for it. Anyway, Sarah Rector, born March 3rd, 1902, in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Now, we already know that's on the reservation, you know what I'm saying? So she was born on the reservation, you know what I'm saying? And what's funny is, I don't know if it said on this article, I have found a real good article. I think this is this tells the most details, you know what I'm saying, in one place. But like they'll say that she's a African American. They get to a point where they're saying she African American, but she said that they was talking about her parents are descendants of Creek Indians. Like I just want you to see how they be lying and hijacking. Like how can she be African American if her parents are the descendants of Creek Indians? You know what I'm saying? Like how did she just become African by being too black? You know what I'm saying? In the eyes of colonists, yes. Alright, so let's get it going because we got some information, man. She was all over the papers and a whole lot of what we be building on that went on with the so-called Negro American Indians, you know what I'm saying, on how they tried to separate the dark-skinned Indians from everybody else, Aboriginals, you know what I'm saying, how they tried to separate the Aboriginals, light-skinned, dark-skinned. That's why I look at all you niggas still be talking like light skin, dark skin, like bro, you colonized, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't a concept that didn't belong to us, bro. That's something that was put on us. You know what I'm saying? So I hate to hear some light skin, dark skin. Like man, I ain't on that bullshit, man. That's some slave brain shit. So anyway, Sarah Rector, she was born in Oklahoma. Says also known as Sarah Rector Campbell because she married the dude Kenneth Campbell. That was in 1935, and then I believe she remarried William Crawford. But she ended up passing away. She didn't die till 1967. You know what I'm saying? But now I want you to see what happened and listen to this story and what went on with her property. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna just read it. It says Sarah Rector, Kansas City's first black millionaires. How you don't know her name? First black, so-called black female, so-called black definitely female. First so-called black female to be a millionaire, bro. A millionaire, and I'm talking about she had the money rolling in. It's still rolling in right now, but we're gonna get to that. It said, for her, it said was Sarah Rector, Kansas City's first black millionairess, was known in Kansas City for her fairy tale ascension to money and fame, fine living at Rector Mansion, and reported entertaining of African-American celebrities such as Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Joe Louis, and Jack Johnson. Okay, so just like Beyonce and Jay-Z house, you know what I'm saying? Like, she got everybody who popping, so-called African-American celebrity, all at her house, you know what I'm saying? Because she's stupid paid, you know what I'm saying? Now, they talking about her adulthood, you know what I mean? Because this is in Kansas City, so she ended up moving to Kansas City, you know what I'm saying? And that's because they built a railroad tracks from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where her land is, her allotment is, to Kansas City, Missouri, you know what I'm saying? It's a railroad track straight there. But anyway, said Rector's story, however, is a complex narrative that stands at the intersection of indigenous sovereignty, children's rights, and the oil boom in Oklahoma. So they know what it is. It requires wading through questionable news reports and legal statutes while examining the shifting status of freedmen during the early part of the 20th century. The Rector's family ancestors had been enslaved by Creek tribal members, and after the Civil War, the U.S. government declared freedmen such as the Rectors citizens of the respective tribe in which they had been enslaved. Sarah Rector was thus both black and an enrolled member of the Creek tribe. So they still don't even want to say that she's Indian. They don't want to give it up. They want to say she's a freedman. She was black and an enrolled member of the Creek tribe. She was enslaved. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything to make you think she's not an Indian. You know what I'm saying? And then she came off a slave ship. Complicated legal statutes combined with highly improbable chance and luck to produce Sarah Rector's wealth. The 1887 Dawes General Allotment Act, also known as the Dawes Severability Act, stripped Native people of their land rights as the U.S. government attempted to restrict indigenous lands and transfer property to white settlers. Simultaneously, the Dawes Act sought to impose a system of individual property rights upon the tribe as U.S. government officials identified previous tribal communal property as uncivilized. So now they done told the Indians, they done made it a law that everybody got to have their own, you got to have your own land, your own property. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can't just, see, they knew what they was doing. They divide and conquer. They broke us up, bro. Like, we sharing the land. They're like, no, y'all can't share the land. You know what I'm saying? They got to divide you up. You know what I'm saying? They got to break you down into little tiny ass hoods and get it to where you only go around the circle in a few little blocks. You know what I'm talking about? They said to have communal property was uncivilized, so they calling us uncivilized for sharing. So you know what I'm saying? Government officials surveyed tribal land, divided it into allotments, and ultimately dispersed much of it to white settlers. So they just giving it away. You know what I'm saying? Peasants, European peasants coming over here and they just giving the land of our ancestors away to them. Like, how can you be European and watch this and not think that your ancestors was not fucked up for that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how? You know what I mean? Government officials surveyed tribal land, divided it into allotments, and ultimately dispersed much of it to white settlers through the sale of what they deemed as excess tribal land. Only those individuals who accepted an allotment or plot were entitled to U.S. citizenship. Only those who accepted an allotment or plot were entitled to U.S. citizenship. So if you ain't with the program, then they wasn't even gonna, you know what I'm saying, fuck with you. The Dawes Act, however, did not initially apply to the so-called 5 civilized tribes, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, who were exempt through previous treaties. So it say the Dawes Act did not initially apply to the 5 civilized tribes. And if you've watched my previous videos, we know why it didn't apply to the 5 civilized tribes. You know what I'm saying? Initially, you know what I'm saying? Because initially, y'all was faking like y'all was the chief's brother. Because the chief didn't know that you was a thief. At the turn of the century, however, Oklahoma was transitioning from Indian territory to state status, and the U.S. government sought further land for white settlers. The Curtis Act of 1898 amended the Dawes Act to include tribes residing in Oklahoma, breaking up tribal governments and their communal lands in Indian territory. In 1889, the unassigned lands in central Oklahoma resulted in the descendants of Creek slaves being allotted an equal share with their former owners on the government allotment of the Old Creek lands in Indian territory. Now you got to understand too, when they talk about this slave shit, they was setting up. You could read about, look up, man, the debtors colony. You know what I'm saying? Where they was setting up colonies for niggas who was pretty much in debt, like poor. You know what I'm saying? And then what? You come work for them. You know what I'm saying? And since you working for them for a set amount of years, then you're a slave. You know what I'm saying? So you looking like, oh, she was a slave. She must have been from Africa. Bruh, slave does not translate to Africa. There's been European slaves, Indian slaves. You know what I'm saying? All kinds of slaves. You know what I'm saying? Like, slave don't just translate to African. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the first thing you got to get out your mind. You know what I mean? If you going to be studying with us, man. It come from the word Slav. Them was white folks. You know what I'm saying? So, get that out your mind first. You know what I mean? It say, the unassigned lands in central Oklahoma resulted in descendants of Creek slaves being allotted an equal share with their former owners on the government allotment of the Old Creek lands in Indian territory. Following the end of the Civil War, these freedmen had been declared citizens of the respective tribes in which they had been enslaved. As such, their descendants were each entitled to a plot of land equal in size to the allotted plots of non-enslaved enrolled tribal members. Now, you had to really ask yourself, if this was just a common slave, you know what I'm saying, that was not an Indian or nothing, how is it that they getting an equal share? You know what I'm saying? With just slave owners. Like, that's just weird. Don't add up. Following the end of the Civil War, these freedmen had been declared citizens. We already read that. It said the U.S. government involvement resulted in individual native freedmen, including Rector and her siblings, each receiving the regulatory allotment of 160 acres. Now remember, you had to sign up, you know what I'm saying, to get this land. So the people who wasn't signing up weren't getting land. And then, you know, some of the people that's in Indian country, because it's broke up in tribes, you know what I'm saying, people still got beef with each other, you know what I'm saying? So some people couldn't even get through hostile country or hostile land to get to, you know what I'm saying, wherever the Indian Bureau of Affairs was to sign up to get on the list. So now you got a whole bunch of so-called Negroes that are Indians, but they didn't get signed up, you know what I'm saying? So it's like niggas signing up for selective service, you know what I'm saying? Every nigga in the hood didn't sign up for that, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, it said, contributor to Crisis, Stacey Patton writes, since the actual distribution of lands lasted from 1898 until 1906, Rector and the other 4,407 black children living in the Creek Nation. 4,407 so-called black children living in the Creek Nation together received nearly 1 million acres of land in eastern Oklahoma. The Curtis Act opened up a surplus, lands to white settlers for purchase. Approximately 90 million acres were stripped away were stripped from tribes and made available to whites. So they gave 1,000,000 acres to 4,400 so-called freedmen children, and then they sold 90 million acres to the settlers and the peasants and the witches and warlocks. As early as 1913, when Sarah Rector was 11 years old, her name was splashed across national headlines. Both white and black presses, the Kansas City, Kansas Black Press National Review reported on September 25th of that year that Rector's income exceeded the president's. But the only outside sign of Oklahoma colored girls' vast oil royalties was a neatly embossed bank book, its leaves of gilt-edged paper bearing the name Sarah Rector. Reports began circulating that Rector was living in a quaint small cabin contentedly, and that every safeguard was being used to protect this girl's interests. She quickly became known as the richest colored girl in America. It should have said the richest American Indian in America, or the richest Indian in America, or the richest Aborigine in America, the original, the richest autochthonous female child in North America. All right, anyway. So she quickly became known as the richest colored girl in America. So how we don't know who the richest colored girl in America is? She was all over the papers. Sarah Rector. You don't know her name? Sarah Rector. S-A-R-A-H. Rector. R-E-C-T-O-R. Teach your children, man. Muscogee Creek Indian. They stole everything from her, bro. Put her in a compulsory school. Robbed her of her wealth. Drowned her in boule parties, and then washed her up. She passed away in 1967. Rector's living conditions and safety soon became a larger, more pressing question, one that commanded W.E. Du Bois' attention, as well as that of the rest of the nation. By 1915, newspapers reported Rector's income quickly increasing past $10,000 a month in a time when the average household incomes were under $60 a month. $10,000 a month. Now she making $10,000. Now this is spoiler alert. They found oil on her land. You know what I'm saying? So because there's oil on her land, she making 10 G's a month. Right now, you be straight with 10 G's a month. What is it? Right now. Yeah. Every month you just getting 10 racks. You know what I'm saying? Here. 10 bands. 10 bands. You be straight. What's that? 120,000 a year? 120K? That's decent living. You know what I'm saying? It said Rector was 13 years old and legally could not manage her own estate. Now, some people say 10, 11, 12. You know what I'm saying? Here they're saying 13. So that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of hijacking and misinformation. You know what I'm saying? It says Rector was 13 years old and legally could not manage her own estate. Her guardian, a white man appointed by a probate judge named T.J. Porter, controlled all of Sarah's financial affairs, although both her parents were alive. Now, this was a common thing, you know what I'm saying, when you study about this, you know, and we're going to dig more into, because that's 4,470 Creek, just the Creek tribe, you know what I'm saying, of so-called freedmen. So that's 1,000,000 acres of land, you know what I mean? So who's supposed to have that now? You know what I mean? Like, Rector. Anybody named Rector out there? Leave a comment below. If you're named Rector, you're welcome. Go get your grandma land. All right, now, but yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that they would have a European govern these kids' money. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. That's 4,400 of just the Creek children alone, and their money is being mishandled by Europeans. You know what I'm saying? Back in when did this happen? 1915, you know what I'm saying? So, because they They say even if you was an infant, even an infant got 160 acres. You know what I mean? We already said that. They say T.J. Porter, he said he controlled all of Sarah's financial affairs, although both her parents were alive. In one way, at least, the guardianship arrangement worked to Sarah's advantage. Before oil had been found on her allotment, her father had struggled to pay the property taxes and even petitioned to sell it, but legally he could not, as Sarah remained a minor. See, he couldn't even sell her land because she got it through the allotment. You know what I'm saying? And because she was a minor, so they wouldn't even let him sell it at the time. Her daddy couldn't sell it. You know what I'm saying? And he got to struggle to pay taxes on it, right? They say Rector's property was operated by B.B. Jones, a millionaire oil man, and the Sun reported fall 1915 production at approximately 160,000 crude oil barrels. He say 160,000 barrels of crude oil. 160,000 barrels of crude oil a month. Rector's share was 1/8. So now they done found oil on this baby girl land, and she's only entitled to 1/8 of the oil, or 1/8 of the a share of the earnings. Say Rector's share was 1/8, or 20,000 barrels a month at 90 cents a barrel. Reportedly, this totaled to 18,000 a month, or a daily income from royalties of around $600. That amount of money was almost unfathomable for the time, with her daily income some Americans' annual salaries. And she making more money than everybody in America, and they're robbing her. You know what I'm saying? It said the amount of money involved attracted widespread attention, particularly because of Rector's racial identity. And it sparked questions about Rector's guardianship and living conditions. Now here comes the boule. W.E. Du Bois, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, started by Europeans. Crisis became involved in Sarah Rector's case when Du Bois received a memo from James C. Waters Jr., an attorney and agent affiliated with the NAACP on June 18, 1914. The memo contained details pertaining to several weeks-long investigation into the alleged mismanagement of Rector's estate by a white man. That's T.J. Porter. Although Rector's estate was pulling in a huge sum of money, Rector and her family were reported to be living in a two-room shack. Now, she make more money than anybody in America, and they got her living in a two-room shack with her parents, and they controlling her money. You know what I'm saying? Like, she don't even have parents. They done made T.J. Porter her guardian. You know what I'm saying? But when it was tax time, when it was time to pay them taxes, her daddy they let him be in charge, pay them taxes. But as soon as the money started rolling in, boom, they came in and although Rector's estate was pulling in a huge sum of money, Rector and her family were reported to be living in a two-room shack. Waters asked, is it not possible to have her cared for in a treatment accorded a good yard dog? Sarah Rector allegedly wore no shoes, wore cheap dresses, and was receiving no education. Now, I also hear that this was all a lie, you know what I'm saying? Or not here, but I've read other places that they made this all up, you know what I'm saying? To try to grab her. They made it like she was a welfare case, you know what I'm saying? Like they do now, come in the house and be like, oh, these are horrible conditions, we're taking her, you know what I'm saying? Scamming. Say Sarah Rector allegedly, and notice they say allegedly, wore no shoes, wore cheap dresses, and was receiving no education, while the guardian appointed to her by the Creek Muskogee Nation was noted by the Chicago Defender as a real Southerner who gets a fabulous sum of money a year, lives on the fat of the land with her money, and does not give his colored charge the care he would a white girl. Du Bois and Crisis, as well as black presses across the nation, challenged the status of a white male guardian. The New York Age reported wholesale protests in response to news of Rector's guardianship and asserted that there were similar cases in Oklahoma oil country. numbering native Negro children with allotments in the hundreds, whose wealth reached far into the thousands, and in every case they, like Sarah Rector, have white guardians. The paper questioned why a black guardian could not be appointed who would be fully invested in the girl's welfare, and claimed, what'd he say? I'm sorry, my brain just derailed because I knew they was full of shit and now they just want to grab her up. The paper questioned why a black guardian could not be appointed who would be fully invested in the girl's welfare, and claimed when a native child allotment is of little or no value, the parents or some other Negro may be appointed as a guardian. But if there's any wealth involved, a white guardian is invariably appointed. Now notice it says when a native child or some other Negro, you know what I'm saying? Because the Indians is Negroes. Everybody know that they talking about it. This the New York Age reported, 1915, you know what I'm saying? And they saying when a native child, and it's in quotes, allotment is of little or no value, the parents or some other Negro may be appointed as guardian. But if there is any wealth involved, a white guardian is invariably appointed. Regardless of wealth, ability, and high standing, the probate judge never deems a Negro sufficiently competent to act as guardian for a wealthy Negro child. The courts, according to the presses, were also biased and involved in grafting schemes. So they robbing all these kids. They done gave land to 4,400 so-called Creek-free children, black babies, you know what I'm saying? And they got the white people managing their land, the Europeans, you know what I'm saying? I ain't even gonna say, well, these are definitely white people, WIGHT, white people, you know what I'm saying? So these are white people I'm talking about right here. That's taking these babies' land. Look that up if you're not already aware of WIGHT and see what white means. Other African American presses echo such sentiments, expanding the issue from that of the individual black children's fortune to a more widespread one of racial solidarity. The New York Age, for instance, wrote, "The money of these colored children is deposited in white banks and used by whites. Not a penny, however, can be used by a Negro. Thus, millions of dollars in valuable land are gradually passing from the hands of Negroes to white people. Thus, millions of dollars and valuable land are gradually passing from the hands of Negroes to white people." Another press called white guardianship abominable and outrageous and wrote, "If the colored people were allowed to control these millions of dollars of wealth, which is owned by their own race, we could build banks, railroads, factories, warehouses, and establish a suitable commercial standing as a race." This just with the Indian land. Just with the Indian land. Just what's left. I'm gonna read that again. If the colored people were allowed to control these millions of dollars of wealth, which is owned by their own race, we could build banks, railroads, factories, warehouses, and establish a suitable commercial standing as a race. The concern, of course, stemmed from white guardians charging exorbitant sums of money for their services, or sometimes arranging deals profitable for themselves and their white acquaintances, while effectively bleeding their charges' funds dry. Sarah Rector alleged abuse made her a figurehead for this race problem. So now they finna come hijack her. The white man done hijacked her, now they finna come grab her up. They finna take her all the way away from all of her Creek ways. You know what I'm saying? Peep game, bro. While reports of nefarious dealings by guardians were sometimes conflicting, the crisis listed multiple black millionaires in Oklahoma whose estates were being appropriated and mismanaged by grafter guardians. While reports of nefarious dealings by Guardians were sometimes conflicting, the crisis listed multiple black millionaires in Oklahoma whose estates were being appropriated and mismanaged by grafter Guardians, including Edith Durant, write it down, Sally Hodge Lee, W.C. Flanagan, and Luther Manuel. Edith and Edna Durant were twins enrolled in the Creek tribe living in Glenpool, Oklahoma. In 1911, their guardian, a man with the last name of Burnett, failed to account for missing funds to the court and finally paid out $40,000 to the twins. The danger for young landowners were still worse. Cases of attempted or actual murder usually included a killer or accomplice who would forge deeds, then claim the dead landowner's property. So this wasn't limited to child landowners. But within Taft, Rector's hometown, two Creek freedmen and siblings named Stella, age 10, and Herbert, 12, Sells were murdered when a white man, William Irvin, and his accomplice, an African-American blacksmith by the name of D.R. Allen, reportedly placed dynamite under the children's bedroom and blasted their house. That was a moment of silence for Stella and Herbert Sells, two Creek freedmen siblings who were murdered by a white man named William Irvin, W-I-L-L-I-A-M, Irvin, I-R-V-I-N. Yeah, I'm snitching. I'm not no snitch. I'm telling. William Irvin's ancestors, descendants of William Irvin. Let's not forget about D.R. Allen. Yeah, who's D.R. Allen? African-American blacksmith. Reportedly, you know what I'm saying? So we wasn't there, but reportedly. And D.R. Allen, we already know why nigga be. That's that old British ass. W.D., you know what I'm saying? With all that initial type nonsense. It say some details. So they blowing up babies. You got the niggas helping them. You know what I'm saying? They blowing up babies, forging their land deeds, killing 10-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I'm saying. Y'all just gonna sit here and, you know what I mean, act like this shit made up. Like you don't feel no inkling to do nothing about it, you know what I'm saying? You're just gonna sit there. Some details regarding Sarah Rector's own history with guardianship are conflicting and murky. Rector did receive a substantial number of international marriage proposals from the age of 13. So this just show you how sick these people. You had Germans and shit trying to marry her. She 13 because for the money. She 13. So what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Straight pedophiles, dog. I'm gonna edit that out. I don't even want that in the algorithm of what we talk about over here, man. Some details regarding Sarah Rector's own history with guardianship are conflicting and murky. Rector did receive a substantial number of international marriage proposals from the age of 13, many of them from white men seeking to control her oil empire. Now, she had an oil empire in 1915. So now it's 100 years later, they still pumping oil out of Guthrie, Oklahoma. But where is Sarah Rector's empire? Where is Sarah Rector's descendants? I mean, I'm just learning about her. So if you know something, please leave it in the comments and let us know what you know about Sarah Rector. Because everywhere I look, everything is like the same cookie cutter quotes about who she is. This is the most information I found, you know what I'm saying, anywhere here at the Kansas City Library. website. So it says, the crisis claimed that Rector was also being abused, ranging from the living conditions to her business transactions. The publication claimed Bob Fite, an open racist, B-O-B-F-I-T-E, Bob Fite, an open racist, sold a building in Muskogee to Rector through T.J. Porter, his friend and her guardian, for an exorbitant sum of $57,000. So they scamming. During correspondence between Du Bois and Muskogee Judge Leahy, however, the judge told Du Bois that Rector had now moved into a 5-room cottage and that the child, along with her siblings, was attending school in Taft. White papers claimed Judge Leahy was tough on guardians who held discrepancies in their accounting. According to Leahy, Sarah's parents had selected Porter for guardian, and Porter received 2% of Sarah's income, a relatively low figure. Yeah, but he making money on the back end. He's selling 2-room shacks for $57,000 to his homeboy. You know what I'm saying? Or should I say his homeboy selling it to him, and he buying it with her money. You know what I'm saying? It is clear, however, that after the NAACP's investigation, the need for a children's division gained widespread attention. So, okay, now they done used this whole thing to push their agenda. You know what I'm saying? Because it said it is clear, however, that after the NAACP's investigation, the need for a children's division gained widespread attention, and other instances of child neglect gained further press. After Booker T. Washington became involved, Rector also began attending Tuskegee Institute's children's school. Press has reported that while a student at Tuskegee, a guard of students prevented Rector's abduction by a party of schemers who had followed her there and were attempting to extort a sizable ransom. While the exact abuses and attempted abuses that faced Rector are unclear, her property rights and wealth certainly made her and other child landowners like her targets for exploitation and violence. So while she at the Tuskegee Institute Children's School, somebody trying to kidnap her there for the ransom. You know what I'm saying? Like, at 1915, they knew all about her. You know what I mean? Everybody know about her. Everybody talking about her. And now here we are 100 years later, and we never heard of her. Sarah Rector and her family relocated to Kansas City, where she attended Lincoln High School and graduated sometime in the early 1920s. Rector's issue with guardianship and men's greed followed her from Oklahoma to Kansas City. In November 1921, Fred Rector, Sarah's uncle, alleged that Rector was dissipating her fortune, and asked that G.C., there go them initials, G.C. Parker, a white man of Muskogee, be appointed as guardian. So now her uncle coming in and saying, oh, you need to let G.C. Parker handle her money because she fucking it all off. You know what I'm saying? But now she her age now. You know what I'm saying? She grown. And now her uncle trying to scam on the money. You know what I'm saying? In March 1922, another application was filed against her that sought a guardian to oversee her estate, while Rector was 20 at the time. They fighting over her estate when she's 20. John Collins, a black resident of Muskogee, so he was probably an Indian. I mean, what the fuck was he, an African? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on the Indian reservation. So they took, that's what I'm saying. So they took all the African slaves and made them live on the Indian reservation. That's what y'all think happened? They took their slaves with them. So they took Africans to the Indian reservation. Where are the Africans from the Indian reservation now? Where are the Africans that went to the Indian reservation? Because they was fresh off the boat. You know what I'm saying? So don't nobody know no African shit on the reservation? John Collins, a black resident of Muskogee, attempted to wrest control of the state through a recent change in Missouri law, which changed the age of majority for women from 18 to 21 years old. So now he's trying to say, well, she done moved to Missouri, and in Missouri, she's still a minor. Collins also claimed Rector was incompetent, spent her money frivolously, and would lose her fortune without guardianship, naming Monty Sampson as an appropriate guardian. The allegations both seem to stem from pure grafter's greed rather than legitimate concern for Rector herself. The court refused the application, holding that the law could not be retroactive under the old law. Rector was of legal age and thereby entitled to her own estate without interference. Rector was also found to be mentally sound and capable of handling her own finances, having impressive lawyers on retainer. At that point, she owned more than $750,000 in oil properties, and some papers estimated her wealth in Kansas and Missouri at over $1 million. Hold on, I need to go back real quick, man, because, or are they talking about, okay, the property itself? Because I'm looking and it say she making $10,000 a month. Her income quickly increased past $10,000 a month. They said $18,000, didn't they? $18,000 a month. So in 10 months, that's $180,000. You know what I'm saying? And now she 20 years old. All she got is $750,000 worth of land. But shit, that even still show you. You know what I'm saying? That's $750,000 in oil properties. So that's not even saying all the rest of her 160 acres was, you know what I'm saying, might be out there. Like, that's what y'all gotta realize, man. You know what I'm saying? When we talking about our ancestors' land. We say during her adult life in Kansas City, Rector does not appear to have been especially interested in philanthropic. Is that how you say that? Philanthropic. She was not interested in philanthropic causes. At the least, she is not widely listed in political or organizational events or affiliations. At the height of her wealth, Rector owned richly furnished Rector's Mansion, a stone edifice at 2000 East 12th Street, and reportedly the entire block of 12th and Euclid surrounding it. So if you live in Kansas City, leave a comment, you know what I'm saying, let us know, shout us out, you know what I'm saying, say what's up to everybody, the whole tribe, you know what I'm talking about, and go check that house out, man, go to that address, you know what I'm saying, you might know, you know, I don't know how they pump it up in Kansas City, but it's at 2000 East 12th Street, you know what I'm saying, 12th and Euclid, man. Go check it out, man. That's the first black millionaire. You know what I'm saying? Millionaireess. You know what I'm saying? Right there. I seen a video of it. It's like all boarded up. I'll edit in some clips. Matter of fact, maybe, you know what I mean? So you can see what the house looks like now. So it says, at the height of her wealth, Rector owned richly furnished Rector Mansion, a stone edifice at 2000 East 12th Street, and reportedly the entire block of 12th and Euclid surrounding it. Eventually, she sold Rector Mansion to the Adkins Funeral Home, and still later, Rector Mansion became the C.K. Kerford Funeral Home. According to her son, Clarence Campbell, Rector had rich tastes and drove a green and black Cadillac and threw grand parties for the black elite and jazz celebrities. She was known by locals for her expensive vehicles, which in addition to the Cadillac included a silver-plated Lincoln and a chauffeur-driven Rolls Royce. Despite her lavish living, Sarah Rector appears to have been a quiet, private person within the Kansas City community. While her name graced many headlines during her adolescence, details about her later personal life are more difficult to find. And at age 20, Rector married Kenneth Campbell, a Kansas City businessman. Campbell, among other endeavors, owned a car dealership within 18th and Vine, and Rector apparently invested in his ventures. After her eventual divorce from Campbell, Rector became involved with and married William Crawford, who owned a restaurant at 1521 East 18th Street. Rector and Crawford later expanded to another restaurant in Tulsa. Rector's investments and wealth continued to accrue through the 1920s, and while much of her fortune took a hard hit during and following the Great Depression, Rector continued to own some properties in Kansas City and Oklahoma until her death in 1967. Her story remains complex and little researched, and while it is unclear exactly how much is rumor or fact, the history surrounding her life pushed officials and activists to examine the lives of freedmen in Oklahoma more closely, and to provide Oklahoma's oil boom and to provide protection for children, particularly black and indigenous children. Black and indigenous children that previously did not exist. Previously did not exist. Not every child came out of Oklahoma's oil boom unscathed. Perhaps because of Du Bois and the NAACP's intervention, or perhaps because her guardian was comparatively honest, Rector thrived during decades in which her status as a wealthy black child and later black woman made her a target for many men's greed. When her life had been so heavily scrutinized and publicized as an adolescent, it is not so surprising that she might choose to maintain a secured private life in later years. So they don't really have any information about her. You know what I'm saying? She became a millionaire, went to Tuskegee and moved to Kansas City, and like that's pretty much all the picture that they paint of her. You know what I'm saying? Look at I want to show y'all some of these newspaper clippings real quick before we close it out. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure it's getting a little long, and not everybody has that type of retention. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to read a couple of these newspaper clips. Because at one point, they literally changed the law and made her white on paper. You know what I'm saying? And I believe she was the first person. She was also the first person who was ever made white. You know what I'm saying? Legal status. You know what I'm talking about? I don't think I got it on the right one. Oh, here it is right here. All right, now listen to what this say. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can see it. Put it on the screen. Brown-skinned colored girl made white. Oklahoma, which passed a law declaring all Indians white. Oklahoma, which passed a law declaring all Indians white, is about to make an Afro-American young lady the same hue on account of her millions. She will be given special privileges to ride across the state in a Pullman car where it is denied to others of her race. So they had to make her white. She was too rich. You know what I'm saying? Here's another one. Guthrie, Oklahoma. That's where her land allotment is. You know what I'm saying? And mind you, they gave her rocky land that was supposed to be shitty. They didn't know it was going to be oil on that. You know what I'm saying? This state has the honor of possessing, as one of its youngest citizens, the wealthiest colored girl in the world. She is the owner of 160 acres of oil land, which she has leased through her guardian, J.T. Porter, to the Standard Oil Company. 2 wells have been sunk, one of which yields 200 barrels a day, while the second yields 1,800 barrels a day. Despite the fact that she is receiving $475 every day of her life, which amounts to $14,000 a month or $171,000 a year, she is 10 years old and lives the simple life, as do her playmates. Her wealth came through land claims. Beginning the first of the year, 9 more wells will soon be in operation. And if so, Sarah's wealth will go into the millions. This, however, has not caused her good mother and father to get the big head, but they are living a comfortable life near Muskogee. Here's another one. This is the one where they're talking about bleaching her, literally bleaching her skin to make her white because she's just gonna grow up too fucking rich. It says, white people alarmed. The white people have become so alarmed at the enormous wealth of this young girl that they do not like such wealth belonging to a girl of Afro-American blood. Some of the whites want to enamel her, others to use skin success so that she might pass. So they would, but the politicians are becoming so stirred up that they, what'd he say? I'm sorry, you know how these clips be. So stirred up that they somebody like whited out the newspaper clipping or something. It said that they are making her white by passing a law to that effect. If so, it will be the first time. It will be the first time a brown-skinned girl has been made white by law. It will be the first time a brown-skinned girl will be made white by law. With all the traits and characteristics of an Afro-American, she has too much money and must be white. I had to read it slow for, all the slow people. So they made her white on paper. You know what I'm saying? And they wanna make her white. You know what I'm saying? Like physically, because they're like, well, we got to make her white on paper because she's too rich, and now we want to make her white. But she was too chocolate already. They couldn't bleach her. You know what I'm saying? With all the traits and characteristics of an Afro-American, she has too much money and must be white. It's the same old idea of the white man that whenever a Negro achieves any distinction, either in the scientific or literary world, some white men want to declare them white. When Frederick Douglass began to show his master ability as an orator and great statesman, white people wanted to claim him. And then it's going on with Booker T. Washington, but they cut off the thing. You can probably see it on there. But the rest of the newspaper clip is cut off. It's probably like on microfilm, you know what I'm saying? One of y'all real thorough researcher, collegiate, you know what I'm saying, type niggas need to get to the bottom of this, man. You know what I'm saying? These are just some clips talking about people wanting to marry her. Now, here's another interesting one, because at first, in the beginning, they were saying that she was a Spaniard or a Mexican. And that's even funnier because that just lets you know. Now, when you look at her, they was describing her as a Spaniard or as a Mexican at first because they didn't want to admit she was black. It said, and then they had to recant it. Here they're correcting it. It says, Sarah Rector is not a foreigner, but an Afro-American. Little 10-year-old Creek child whose yearly earnings from her vast oil wells are $371,000 a year is a child of Negro parents and not a Spaniard, Mexican, or any other foreigner, as told in the Chicago Defender months ago. So if her parents are descended from slaves, they're still not calling them foreigners if they're from Africa. They said she's not. She is a child of Negro parents, not a Spaniard, Mexican, or any other foreigner, as told in the Chicago Defender months ago, now under Tuskegee's care. Wealthy child will no longer live in hut to be educated at famous institute without knowledge of her vast wealth, which will be managed by a member of the race. Leave a comment below. I think we just gonna end it right there, man. I think that's a whole lot to go on. I think we learned a lot, and I think we have a lot to learn. So, you know what it is, man. Too high for pigeons to fly. We walk on the water and live in the sky. Hawk School, baby.